What's up, guys? Now you're probably wondering what these charts are on the right. I'll explain the second one in a bit. The first one is all about rhythm. Normally, music will follow a pattern with the beats, and the way it is defined is like so. When music is notated, the repetition in rhythm is defined by a meter. The top number represents the number of beats, and the bottom number represents the note that gets the beat. On the bottom, a 2 represents a half note, 4 represents a quarter note, 8 represents eighth, and so on. As for the type of meter, there are two main types of meters, simple and compound. A simple meter is one where the top number is 2, 3, or 4, and the beat naturally divides into 2. Here's an example of 4, 4. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. A compound meter is one that starts with 6 or 9, or perhaps a few other numbers, and naturally divides into 3. Like 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4. No. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1. There's also irregular meter, where the accents can be flexible, with the exception of the first beat. 5/4 is a common example of this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1. So, as you can hear, there's an accent on 1 and 3. The accent could also be on 1 and 4, like this. 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there are other meters like composite where these flexible accents are specified, but they're hardly ever used. Meter can change during a song, and sometimes meters will alternate back and forth in notation. But again, I'm trying to gear towards electronic musicians with these videos, so take the notation on a staff with a grain of salt if that's what you're going for. Most of the music today, especially electronic, will use 4/4 or 12/8, or 6/8 depending on how you look at it. Basically, this is 4 beats per measure divided into either 2 or 3. In my opinion, there's way too much music like this, and I feel like a change in meter might be interesting. So moving on, here I have a chart for chords in a scale. We'll use C major for this one. In order, the chords I play will follow the left side of the chart. So each chord follows a certain mode, and they all have names, but the most important ones to be named are the tonic, the subdominant, and dominant mode. So now I'll play the same chords in the relative minor key A minor. The modes have the same names here. Now, here's where the more popular harmonic minor comes in. I'll play the 7 chord, not a 7th chord, but the chord built on the 7th scale degree from the harmonic minor. It sounds better, doesn't it? Now, to make another distinction, it especially sounds better when going from the dominant chord to the tonic. This arguably sounds better than this. Now, I must explain why it's called music theory. It amounts to ideas that really can't be measured. Therefore, a lot of this deals with the way we perceive what we hear and what sounds good or not, and why it sounds good can't really be determined. So to some people, the second set of chords may sound better, but most of us can agree that the first one is better. Now would be a good time to define this. This is a chord progression, or a logical and audibly desirable series of chords. One example is going from 5 to 1, as so. The reason why this is desirable is because of the common tone, the G. Now, there are better ways to go about this chord progression. You can see here that the common tone is in the middle, but the notes around it jump down, and the common tone goes from being the bottom note to the top note. This may sound okay, but a better way to go about this is to keep the common tone in the same position relative to the other notes, like so. Now, there's more than one way to do this, which I'll show in a couple minutes. The root of the chords here is built on this 5-to-1 relationship. A good traditional way to go through a chord progression is to go through by an interval of a fourth or a fifth. This follows a specific pattern where you jump up or down by 4 spaces, the perfect fifth, and if you go above 7 or under 1, you start at the top again, or at the bottom again. So an alternate way to think of this is to go up by 4 or down by 3, or vice versa. So using the chart, going through this, we can start at any point and eventually end up back at 1, also known as tonic and informally known as home. Most songs will end on this 1 chord. Normally, the way to follow the progression is to go through the chart in a decreasing fashion, so going from down to up here, so that you end by going from 5 to 1. The other way around is known as a retrogression. There's something called the circle of fifths, which can be a good tool to use, but I'll go over that later. So here I have a very traditional chord progression. I go from 1 to 4, back to 1 to 5, and back to 1 again. And like before, I kept the common tones in the same position relative to the other notes. Now, you may notice listening to this that you may hear a melody where the top sounds like this, the middle sounds like this, and the bottom sounds like this. I'll go over the reasons for this and the proper ways to write melodies that fit together and form the basis for these chords in the next video. So moving on, let's show an example of another progression. This one starts at 2, and going down the chart we have to go back up to 7. So 1, 2, and go down until we went 4 spaces. 3, 4. So now we hit 5, and as you can probably guess, we now head up 4 more spaces, 1, 2, 3, 4, to get back to 1. You can hear the individual notes here. And immediately following this, I have a chord progression that uses these notes. Now we can take it a step further and start at 3. Heading down, it's simple. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we go back up here. Or wait, no. 1, 2. We head back up here. 3, 4. And now we're at 6. Now we end up at 2 again. Because 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're at 2. So the rest is self-explanatory, right? We go 1, 2, 3, 4 to hit 5. And then back up 1, 2, 3, 4 to hit 1. So here are the individual notes here. And here's an example of a progression. Now, to show another way the chords can change. To make a point, it isn't like this is the only way to go about doing things. A large part of the creativity here is to do what's unexpected while knowing what absolutely not to do. Anything else is fair game. Here, the common tone goes from being the bottom note to the middle note. This sounds okay. One reason why it works is because the notes don't jump around each other or the voices don't cross, but I'll most likely explain this in the next video. So here we have the same starting chord in the same inversion, but a different finishing chord inversion following it, like you probably heard before. So yeah, I guess that's basically it for this one. I tried my best to explain all the chords. If anything was really confusing, then just let me know in the comments or whatever, and I'll try to clear it up. This is pretty much like the basis for all the creative writing that you can do in music, in terms of your chord progressions and everything you can do and what you shouldn't do. And I mean, it was kind of hard to explain, but hopefully these charts cleared it up. So I guess that's it. Next time I'll be going over basic part writing, and I'll see you all later.